Hello, this is Squally, and this is episode 3 of How to Draft League. Today we are going to be covering prepping for your matches. Obviously, quite important for playing Draft League. Now, I don't have much of a PowerPoint setup for this. This is going to be more of it's a slightly more practical video where we're going to take a look at we're going to take a look through the prep documents, the Google Docs that you can use to help you prepare for your matches. And we're going to have a look at an example. Yeah, so let's just get into it. Let's get out of this. And right, I will be covering 2 prep documents in this video. They will both be in the description if you want to use them for yourself. Obviously, I have no involvement in making these documents. I imagine it'll say who it's made by here. Yep. So, this document, this is a very, very good document. I don't personally use it, but it is really, really good. So I'm going to take you through it. As you can see, this here is your team. So you've got your stats, typings, type chart. Type chart's very important for running matches. In addition to that, you have like specific moves. You can see what your team has, for example, and you can change this all you want. Say, I want to see which my Pokemon have Fake Out, which is actually none of them. Or I can look at Helping Hand. We can see that Ursaluna Blood Moon has access to Helping Hand. And there's obviously a lot of moves on this list. We also have Terra types. If you want to include Terra types in your type chart, you can do that. A feature of this doc I actually do quite like, at the top here, show offensive stat coverage, you can see your offensive coverage. This probably isn't as good for prepping for matches, but if you are planning a draft plan, that's a very useful tool to keep track of what Pokemon you can hit and what Pokemon you can't hit. And obviously down here, you've got the same thing with your opponent's team. Exact same thing as before, but it's with your opponent's team. You can see the type chart, you can see their moves. So that's very useful. Obviously, inputting the team is quite important. You can change this to whatever you want. For example, I have Camerupt on my team, so we're going to put that in. And as you can see, it'll update. I believe these are actually in speed order. It also supports, you can change your Terra types however you want. You can also change them here, so they can be whatever. Also, you can change this. For example, if I'm playing in the PPF Draft League, I can change that to PPF. Oh. And you can, there's a little drop down here, you can choose and switch between your teams. So that will be in the description. That is not the doc I'm going to be covering. There's also some other features which are quite useful. So check this out. I'm going to move on to the doc that I personally use. So, quick explanation. It's got a lot of the same stuff. So you've got a team overview here, your team, your opponent's team. And again here, you've got your type chart. Type chart's very, very important. Stats are important. This here is really, really useful because a lot of the time in Draft League you'll find yourself. I mean, when you're EV training, generally you're going to be speed creeping because there is no point in training. There are any good examples here? There's no point in training my Suicune to be 150 speed Well, no, I'll go with Magmortar. There's no point in training my Magmortar to be 148 speed if their next fastest one is 139. I might as well train it to be 140. Obviously, you can change all these settings. I generally will leave them as default, unless you want to calc for, say, a Choice Scarf or a Tailwind, stuff like that. You can also calc for neutral nature. And so I have some tools here that are very useful for planning out a draft. Obviously, that's not what this video is about, so I'm not going to go into that. Over here on Teams, is this way you input your teams. So you can either manually input, copy and paste from the league you're playing in. And let's go on to the example. Now this is actually a matchup I played quite recently. It's my most recent draft league video. Also what I'm going to do, you can change this. So I can say video example. You can change it to whatever you want. I'll just drop down, video example, here we are. So something you may notice is we have little checkboxes up here. You can actually turn a Pokemon on and off, just like this. The reason you might want to do this is, let's say my opponent's prepping for my team. They look at my type chart and they think, okay, right, their team seems, they got a lot of fire answers. They got a lot of water answers. If I turn normal off, then suddenly my team is weaker to fire, more resistant to water. It's much weaker to electric, just from turning that one NFE that likely isn't going to do anything off or on, changes the type chart by quite a lot. So if you're looking at the type chart, it might be a good idea to turn NFEs off. So we're having a look at this matchup. I'm looking at my opponent's team. I'm thinking, right, where are their weaknesses? So we can see ground. Okay. So what is weak to ground? A lowland graveler. I don't really care about a lowland graveler. Like, it's always important to keep all of your opponent's Pokemon in mind when prepping, but realistically, I'm not going to prioritize ground type attacks because a lowland graveler is weak to them. It does beat Revavroom though, so that's very nice. Revavroom only has 2 weaknesses. If you look at my team, aside from normal, I actually don't have a fire type. I don't have a ground type either. So it may be important to keep, like, maybe I could go Terra Fire, Terra Blast, Terra Ground, Terra Blast, something like that. The other ground weakness, Typhlosion. Typhlosion fairly frail. I don't really care for hitting it super effective. Then obviously I got to watch out for Appletun and Kilowattrel. Which are both ground answers, which, to be honest, I think they're both quite likely to come to this matchup. Kilowattrel and Appletun. I mean, Appletun's a grass dragon. That's really good into my rain team here. That'll resist all of my attacks. Kilowattrel, it's an electric type, into a Tailwind. That's going to be good into my rain team. So we're likely going to see that. So can I actually exploit this ground weakness? Probably not. Both of their counters are definitely coming. Alolan Graveler's not really a big deal. Revavroom, Typhlosion aren't as big of a deal as Appletun and Kilowattrel in this matchup. So I'm going to ignore that. There's no other weaknesses. So I can't really exploit this team type-wise. It's probably a bad example. Usually there's some typing you can lean into to exploit. My team probably is weaknesses, to be honest. Well, like, we go Psychic. Like, my only resist is Registeel. Like, you could exploit, like, going Psychic types into my team. As an example. You could exploit, like, Freeze Dry as well. That'd be really bad into my team. I shouldn't be leaking this info. So take a look at the type chart. It's very useful when prepping for opponent to see if they've got any weaknesses. If they have like a major weakness, you could lean into it by going with Terra Blast stuff. Terra Blast is very, very good in Draft League for obvious reasons. Since your opponent can't see what Pokemon you have that are running Terra Blast, and you can bring a specific Terra type, Terra Blast, in order to counter your opponent's team. It's especially good if the league you're playing in is closed Terra Sheet. If it's open Terra Sheet, you can potentially guess, like, this Terra Electric Pokemon is going to run Terra Blast to beat my Gyarados. But if it's closed Terra Sheet, you can't see it's Terra Electric. You don't know it's going to Terra Blast your Gyarados. Just an example. Another important factor is speed, as I've already went through. I will give you an example now. If I take my Glimmora, right? So I've usually what I'll do is I'll get my 6, or 5. I'll actually go with my first 5. 5 or 6 Pokemon. Once you've got them down, just pretend I got them down. Do all the movesets kind of as you're picking them. Once you've got most of the team done, I'll move on to EVs. The first thing I typically look when prepping for Draft League, the EV training is speed. If we take a look here, my Glimmora is base 86 speed. I am not going to be able to outspeed this Annihilate or this Revavroom. The fastest Pokemon I can outspeed is actually Blastoise. So if we take a look down here, as you can see, Blastoise is 143, Glimmora is 151. Is a Blastoise realistically going to go positive speed nature? I don't think so. We can see neutral speed Blastoise is 130, so we keep that in mind. We go back to positive nature. Smeargle is, I think, maximum speed of 139. Smeargle quite possibly will go max speed here. It's a Smeargle, it's not a defensive tank. So if you say, okay, Smeargle's going max speed, I want to outspeed it with my Glimmora. So I want 140 speed. Can I get to 140 speed without going timid? No. Okay. In this case, you have to weigh up your options. Is it worth going timid in order to outspeed this Smeargle? Or would I rather give up on outspeeding Smeargle and just go modest or another nature? Here, Smeargle's really annoying, so I'm going to say yeah, it is worth it. So we'll go timid, and obviously I want to outspeed 140. I want to outspeed 139, so I want to go out 140. And then at this point, I can do whatever. If you've got time, you can obviously do some defensive calcs. I'll typically just train my Pokemon. Something like this. I might try mixing some calcs in there as well. Generally, you won't have time to optimize all of your EVs. Once you play the game enough, you will kind of get a better feel for it, of the rules of optimizing EVs, which I will go into in a much, much later video, as that's more advanced. You won't generally have time to calc against everything your opponent has. Generally, just optimizing it the best you can is your best choice. You can obviously do a few important calcs. Okay, I'm gonna now talk about when you're first looking at the matchup. A way that I used to do this, I actually don't do this so much anymore. However, I think it's actually a very, very good way of looking at it. And this is advice that can be, brought into most matchups. It really depends on the style of your team. But the first thing I did when looking at a matchup is I decide, okay, I'm in this game, I'm playing this game. What's my lead? What is my leader? If I can find a lead that beats the vast majority of the combinations that they could bring as their lead, if I can find a lead that beats all of their leads, then that's amazing. Obviously I can design something specifically to beat any of their leads. For example, let's say, alright, I think they're going to go Smeagol Annihilate, or they could go Kilowattrel Annihilate, or they could go Kilowattrel Typhlosion, or they could go Kilowattrel Crocodile. Like, okay, those are the things I think they're going to lead. What beats that? And then I look at my team, I think, right, what can beat that? Obviously, this is an Annihilate matchup. It's kind of difficult to find out something that beats even just Annihilate on lead. Annihilate is very, very strong. But just some examples. Thunderous could taunt Smeagol. Basculegion can do huge damage to Crocodile, can do big damage to Annihilate, and can outspeed and just destroy Kilowattrel before it can get a Tailwind off. Obviously, beats Typhlosion. Could also run something like Fungus and also redirect the Water Shuriken from Smeagol, since Smeagol can proc Annihilate's Rage Fist with priority Water Shuriken. Things of this nature. I'm looking at what can I lead? And what you can lead is actually an amazing place to start off with. You know, you can. What did I say? Like Thunderous, Basculegion. Okay, this is my lead. I designed 2 sets specifically to be the lead. You can obviously have more than one lead planned. You can have a game 1 lead planned and a game 2 lead planned, or you can have 2 different game 1 leads planned depending on what you see in team preview. But ultimately, I think this is a really good place to start. Then you just start looking, right, I'm going to go through each of my Pokemon. What has a good matchup? Right, Ludicolo. Ludicolo into Annihilate. It's okay. Hydro Pump will do a lot of damage. It's fairly neutral. Smeagol, fairly neutral. Kilowattrel, I mean, it can hit me super effective with flying. I'd say that's a bit of a negative matchup. It's Typhlosion, I think say that's positive. Alcremie, that's neutral. Revavroom, that's neutral. Blastoise, that's a positive. That's a very positive matchup. Blastoise can't hit Ludicolo. Ludicolo can hit Blastoise, is super effective. Very positive matchup into Crocodile. Fairly negative matchup into Appleton. Neutral into Hatchram. Beat Traveler or Lola. So I'm thinking, right, that beats quite a lot of the team. It's got a couple weaknesses. But that's okay. Like, what were its weaknesses again? Kilowattrel, like flying move, and Appleton. And Appleton can't actually threaten me that much. In fact, if it's running a Leech Seed Stall set, it can't actually touch Ludicolo. Appleton is generally a slow Pokemon. So I'll give you the example of actually how I dealt with this in my actual match. Is I went with Ongo. Since Appleton is quite a defensive Pokemon, if it uses some kind of support move, I can Encore it into that. If it tries to protect for leftovers recovery, Onko. And that just shuts it down. Also, Encore helps with general protects. So that's pretty nice. And I just continue looking through each of my Pokemon. Obviously, this would be much quicker if you were doing this in practice as opposed to explaining everything out loud. So don't worry, this doesn't take years. Once you've got through your Pokemon, you'll in an ideal situation, you got 6 Pokemon that are really good into the matchup. The rest of your Pokemon are bad into the matchup. Nice, easy decision. A lot of the time it won't go like this. A lot of the time you'll end up with 5 Pokemon that are good into the matchup. You may end up with 7 or 8 Pokemon that are good into the matchup, and you have to decide and weigh up which Pokemon do I bring, which Pokemon can I afford not to bring. That can be a very, very tricky decision, actually. What I will say is don't be afraid to ask people for help. There'll be a lot of people who will be happy to help you prepare for your matches. Generally, the typical way you do this is if you take a screenshot of kind of this area I'm highlighting right now, and just DM it to them. Obviously, after they've agreed to help you, or if they're a close friend and you know they don't mind you just DMing them. So yeah, don't be afraid to get help for matchups. A lot of the time, it's a great idea to get a second opinion, especially if you're struggling what Pokemon to bring. You can ask someone, "Hey, what what six do you think look good into this matchup?" See what they say. See if it matches with what you're saying. See, a lot of the time you could potentially be missing something about your opponent's team. If they say, "Oh, this Pokemon you're saying is really good," you're saying Registeel's really good, but I actually don't think it's very good into this matchup because Annihilate's a Ghost type. You can't hit it with Body Press. It's just going to Drain Punch you, restore all of its health. Then you go, "Oh yeah, of course. I completely missed that." And that does happen. Like we all miss stuff. I mean, I missed that Gothorita could use Trick Room in a playoffs match recently. That wasn't good. If you can get a second opinion, definitely do that. Guys, we all make mistakes. I think that's about all there is to show. I mean, there's also this. Generally, I don't look through this too much. This displays all the moves. Unfortunately, it does not include any Pokemon that were added in the Gen 9 DLC. It's an advantage of this dock. This does include Pokemon that were added in the Gen 9 DLC. They are still on the dock, but their movesets aren't. So if any Pokemon that was added in the Gen 9 DLC, if it used Skill Swap, it wouldn't come up as knowing Skill Swap. I don't typically use this whole thing. Usually I'll just Control F, look for a specific move. For example, I may search for Wide Guard. I spelled that wrong. Oh, sorry. There we go. Wide Guard. And I can say, okay, I can bring Wide Guard and either me and show up help. For example, if I'm facing a Regidrago, a Scythe Spam team, I want something for Wide Guard to protect me from Expanding Force, from Dragon Energy. Okay. I have been going on for a while. I've had much less of a script for this video, if you may have been able to tell. Um, it's been much less of kind of an information video, much more of me trying to show you what my thought process would be. Because to be honest, I can't really give you a set list of advice for how to prepare for a match. It's not like drafting a team where there's kind of set things that are good and bad. There's no good way or bad way to prep. There's only advice I can give you. I can take you through my thought process. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been a little bit of a different style video to what I've obviously did for my previous videos and what I'm planning on doing in the future. Do let me know whether you thought this video was helpful or not, since I have no idea. And if you prefer this style of content, let me know, and I could do this sort of thing again for future videos, but otherwise I'm probably going to stick to the PowerPoint formula. For most of the series, there will be exceptions. For example, this video. And what I will say, don't be afraid to bring some weird stuff to your draft matches. I'm not talking like crazy out of this world sets, but you'll probably find yourself bringing a lot of fairly non-standard sets. And if you're very confident that a really weird set looks good into the matchup, then bring it. Like, this isn't standard VGC. You can get away with bringing a lot of crazy sets. I think that's the last thing I have to say. So, anyway, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. As I said before, please let me know in the comments what you thought of the style of the video. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, anything else you want to ask. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Again, in the description, I will include a list of a bunch of draft servers you can join, mostly VGC. There'll be some singles as well. And also, I will contain links to the draft docs. You just have to make a copy of them, and then you can use them however you want. But anyway, thank you for watching. I will try get episode 4 up some point this week. We'll see. Maybe not. Probably Sunday. No promises. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye!